Welcome, everybody. This is the KubeVirt community meeting, February 17th, 2021. And first up on the agenda, I'll turn it over to Chris to talk about release tags.
Actually, Chris seems to be, I guess, in a different meeting. I was communicating with him over the KubeVirt community meeting notes. Looks like he's in a different meeting. So, yeah, maybe we should wait until he joins here. I'm not sure.
Well, is there any other agenda items that we need to cover, or should we dive into this one?
So I don't have anything for today, so.
Great. Yeah, so his comment, I'll read it aloud in case it helps for those listening on YouTube. He says, missing the latest release tag for common templates and also KubeVirt. I noticed this when there was a user guide content update to bump common templates version. An old version has been advertised for quite some time. Wouldn't it be easier if we had a latest tag in releases? I don't know what that means. So I'd have to, can anybody translate English to English for me here?
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah. Hey, Chris. How you doing, man? Welcome.
Hi, everybody. I am so sorry. I'm supposed to be hosting the meeting this week. As you can see, I'm logged in with the CNCF KubeVirt name. I had a web portal issue and started up the meeting as the wrong meeting ID. My sincere apologies for that.
Don't worry, I went rogue and started the meeting for you. So.
All right. Appreciate that, Stu. Yeah, so I have the first topic in the agenda, and I've been doing a lot of work with the user guide lately, and noticed a community member created a pull request for some content updates a few days ago, and part of that was bumping up a version number in common templates. And the previous advertised version number was like 0.0.2 or 3, and he bumped it up to 0.31. So that was a huge bump in versioning. And I looked at the history on that, and it's been in place for over a year. I looked at a few other cases in user guide where we're publishing version numbers, and they show the same behavior of old version numbers being published. And we have the same case in the website content. So I was wondering if it was possible to get a latest tag, so we don't have to keep circling around and dealing with these version numbers when we release.
There might be a way to reference in our documentation the most recent stable release. I think that would be the best way to do it. So there is a curl command we can call that would get the latest stable release from a GitHub, like the GitHub site for a repo, and we could use that. Going back to the common templates, I'm not even sure if we should be documenting that in our user guide. Maybe that's a different topic entirely. They're only usable for OpenShift, and I'm not even sure how consumable they are outside of Red Hat's product. Mm. Who was the community member? Was it a Red Hat employee, or was it?
Oh, I'd have to check. I was more concerned with the versioning topic. But yeah, that curl to get the latest release sounds like a fantastic happy medium. And I know we do have a lot of cases of using curl to capture the latest release, especially in the quick start guides. So yeah, I'll happily create an issue on that and run with that.
Okay, that sounds good. Let me know if you need help constructing that curl command, and I can show you how it's done, or I can figure it out. I've seen it before. I had to go back and look at notes, but I know it's possible.
Yeah.
I maybe can just post it inside and see if you want. I've just touched an area where I needed that.
Yeah, so sorry guys. I wanted to bring up a topic about what do we expect from PRs to be? How large can they be, and how can we work together on large PRs? But I see that somebody else brought it up. Ezra, maybe you want to talk about this a little bit more, and then
Yes, certainly. So there are actually two topics here, and I can represent the newcomers into the project. So I was doing several or many pull request reviews in the past few weeks and so on. And at least for me, I find it very difficult to review, and I'm not talking about generated files and so on. Sometimes there are pull requests which span across, I don't know, 40 files changed and so on. And so for this, I only put a request for the forum. We cannot mandate it. We cannot. I don't think there is a tool for that. But just a request that we should try to, as much as possible, split PRs when possible. I already identified several or many PRs that could have happened and it just didn't. So it's not. I don't think that all the very large PRs need to be at that size. I identified several that could have been split. This is one item. And the other one, which I put, is more of a logistics. When looking on very large PRs, and once again, I'm not talking about something artificial like generated files or vendor change and so on. I think it's too risky if we just, and once again, it's, anybody is doing different ways of reviews and so on, but I thought it would be good practice if we can mandate at least two people that are giving LGTM instead of just one. I know that this is happening on other projects as well. I think it will be safer, but once again, it's it's not an objective view, it's my own personal view, so whatever other things is fine. Because my main point is that if we leave these very huge and big PRs, there are very few people who can actually first find the time to actually review that, can actually review that because they are familiar with all the files and code and so on. And there are a lot, large PRs are in general very bad. By the time you finish with that, you need to rebase the code, things are changed, you need to redo the review and so on. So that's my only comment.
Yeah, it's frustrating for sure. There's a balance here. The thing that is difficult is sometimes to encompass the entire chunk of whatever we need to implement to make it functional end to end. Just even the smallest piece. Sometimes it does touch a lot of files, and it is large, and that's unfortunate. And then sometimes there's times where we could definitely split up a large PR and make it in smaller chunks and be successful in that, and still be able to go ahead with our philosophy of being able to release at any time. So that's where things get a little tricky. Is we want to be able to release a functionally complete project at any point. So when we look at breaking things up, we can't have a new feature where half the implementation necessarily lives in one PR and half the implementation lives in another PR. There has to be some sort of sizable chunk, at least the way we're structured today, to say that it's functional. I think that's kind of the tension that I have with having to deal with. I don't like making big PRs, but I've been I've had to do that a lot in the past because otherwise I have a half implementation, which I have no guarantee that the next release won't take my half implementation, which isn't even functional. And I think it would be good to have some sort of policy, or at least shore up a more crisp definition of what we're looking for with PRs as a community. Did you have any, so you mentioned a couple of examples. I think it would be interesting to maybe look at like one that you think is probably too large, and maybe see like, okay, what is it about this PR that makes it too large? How would we actually restructure it to make it smaller, and think about maybe just go through that exercise once.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. I will try to identify them, and I can push them to the document. By the way, I think that we all understand that if you kind of plot the number of large PRs against the lifetime of the project, we need to see some convergence, right? If this is a mature and stable project, you need to start seeing less and less amount of such huge changes, right? And if it's not happening, that's a problem. It means that you are introducing a lot of risk into the project.
I'm not sure. I think the moment we introduce a new feature, it has to be quite large. The problem with this is that a feature enables certain functionality. And when we want to accept this feature, we need to see that it's complete and it's testable, and it's something that doesn't break anything. That's why it creates large PRs. Although if you look at other projects, they don't consolidate everything in one PR, but they create a dependency between patch sets, for example. And then you would have a large dependency between several of these patch sets. And then in the end, they all can go in once all of them are reviewed and approved. So there's not much difference between this project and other projects. And I spent a week on this and went back to my times in OpenStack and reviewed what's going on there. And whenever we introduce a new feature, it will create a large amount of code that needs to be reviewed, and there's just no other way to get away around this. So I'm not entirely sure. What are your suggestions, or anyone's suggestions? I wanted to open up to this to discussion, and I don't know. I know that there's a lot of frustration in the background. So
I think we have to look at on a case-by-case basis and kind of understand where people are frustrated with the size of PRs today, and look at what we can do, what advice we can give or direction we can give at making them smaller. And then from that, I think through that exercise, maybe we can come up with a set of guidelines to help us in the future, because we don't really have that right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I just think that there are two main issues, for me, if I'm stepping back and looking at all of this. And I see that first of all, it's the ability to review. And then the second one is how a group can work on a large PR. So there were a couple of suggestions before, and maybe I'll start with the second one. And in general, we used to work several people on one PRs already. And what I think is that in GitHub, it's kind of easy, because a PR itself, it's a branch. So several people can just push to this branch if it belongs to a certain person that allows collaboration on that branch. And then it's automatically getting tested by what we have in KubeVirt. And in addition to this, you can create as many as you like commits in there, so it's kind of easy to review. And again, yeah, when it's a large feature, you need to rebase. It's kind of given. But yeah, that's my thought about this.
So I have a question. Does it make sense to span a feature across more than one PR, or we prefer to be fully fledged in one PR?
The trouble with this is that we cannot create a dependency between PRs. And logically,
sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
Go ahead.
I just wanted, I mean, this is a subject that is, you know, Radek, it's very close to my heart because I mean, in the last few months, I am frustrated as well, and I see that other people are frustrated by this. And the frustration is usually based on the review process, because when you have a very big PR, the review process may take a very long time, and it will also be frustrating for the reviewer and the author, because the author needs to every time go back and rebase and to the master, which will break its thing all the time. He will need to rebase on the changes that is requested from him, and it would just take months to get something done. And from the reviewer, he will just never end this saga. I mean, he cannot go and look at a big, I mean, his focus on a very big PR is very large. If you have a small PR, it's very focused. You know, your understanding of this scope is very limited, or you don't need to see the whole picture. You just need to take care of that specific subset of a problem, and it's easier to review. Now, I agree with both parts that Ezra gave. I think it's both of them are I mean, I cannot say it better than what you did. And I think about the splitting. I mean, your definition of that a feature must be one PR. I want to give a different definition that I'm used to from my previous experience. So this is also part of working in an agile environment, when you need to push things faster and split the things in a way that you see progress and you get feedback from your customer, from your from QA, from someone. So you can look at this as at a feature, that's something that is atomic, that it's something that you can test at a level of, for example, at an end-to-end level. If you can test something, even a feature that it's not fully visible or useful for a user, but it is testable at the end-to-end test, then you can look at it as something that can exist by itself. You don't need, you can split it there. And yes, you can say, dear user, you can use it, but it lacks 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Or you can tell the user, you cannot use it. It is still in development. It is feature gated or whatever you want to call it, and you cannot open it. If you open it, it's on you. We did not add it to the release notes. We did not document it. It's internal usage, and internally it is tested. So every part of the code must be tested. That code is not allowed. That's a regular rule. So this is how I worked in the past.
So actually, I want to go back to what Igor mentioned, and I personally in favor of that. Maybe I misunderstand what are the problems with that. Why can't we have, I know that on other projects and other companies and so on, you can actually have a label like we have work in progress. You can have a label putting on the PR and indicating that that PR depends on that the other PR should be first, merged or whatever. Why can't we can have a feature composed of several PRs, each of them is self-contained. I can tell you what happened to me sometimes, and I think I'm guilty as well. You go and code the PR, and while you are in the middle or towards the end, you realize that, oh, I could have split it and so on, but you continue anyway, right? Because you're already finished and so on, and you don't want to redo stuff and split it. I think that on many PRs, you can find kind of split. For example, refactor something, create new classes, create new functions, and then the actual usage can be in a different PR. So that's my view. Once again, as Azar said, it's not mandatory. There are, of course, occasions when there is no way to avoid it, and you will have such a huge PR, spend all the. I understand, and every project should have it. But I have the feeling that we have too many of those.
So I can give some examples where I think I've seen this done correctly. Ashley was working on a PR recently where she needed to refactor pretty much the entire directory tree of the operator. And she did that in a separate PR, and she got that merged before the feature work or wherever she needed to get done. So she didn't merge all this together. That would have been a total nightmare for her to rebase and everything like that. So she found functionally that, all right, I'm going to piece apart the pieces that I can that don't involve the feature directly, and then I'll focus directly on the feature once I get all those other things in place. So she kind of created a dependency in a way herself by doing this. Another example where I think I've seen this done well is Michael was working on snapshots, and snapshots have two pieces of functionality. It's the snapshot part, and there's the restore part. This is a huge feature, like it was ginormous. And he chose to go ahead and implement the snapshot part as one complete feature, understanding that somebody could snapshot. We can test it end to end. You can test that you got a snapshot. You just can't restore it. So you can't do anything with those snapshots. And I think we had a couple of releases where all we had was snapshot support. And it was, of course, feature gated and everything. And then the second half of that, the restore part, we'd already agreed on how that would take place. And he created a separate PR for that. And again, that was an end-to-end testable part just in and of itself, and that restored full functionality end to end. So the whole feature was then again split up, but at the finest granularity, I would say that the policy that we have is whatever is introduced has to be, just like Edward said, testable end to end. Maybe it's not even useful to somebody, and that's okay. We can document that or put it behind a feature gate or whatever, but it has to be functionally testable, whatever that means.
Yeah, so first of all, I'm very happy that we're talking about this and not just keeping frustrations from talking about it, from talking this. And I'm not pushing back as well. I want to improve the process, and I want people to feel that they have help. But yeah, like David said, whenever we are splitting, we just need to make sure that whatever we're splitting is some kind of a functionality. And many times I did see PRs that they are piece of something that enables something, but it just piece of a larger picture that nobody can review because first of all, it loses context, and the second, it risks to get released without actually enabling a feature or something. So this is where the line, for me at least.
I think, sorry. I think another issue with this, so like when I split my PR up into, I think it ended up being 3 separate PRs, it took a week or more for each of those to be merged because between reviews and then CI constantly failing for it to get merged to then get my actual feature to be reviewable. So I think that's another factor in splitting up the PRs that is frustrating and why maybe people aren't doing it.
Yeah. I just wanted to say that it's like it's also the rebasing itself. If you have something very big, the rebasing is also very hard. But I wanted just to say that the splitting that you are all talking about is also, it's a technical. It's like you need to have a technical understanding how to do it. It's also technical and also part of the design. You need to design. If you have a feature, you should have a design that expresses how you're going to split it, and then you can say, okay, I did the design, I have these 10 parts of the design, I understand what each part is doing, I explained it, so now I can focus on each part independently and test it. One of the requirements is to have a test, so it can be exercised. But this is part that I don't know if it happens all the time. I'm not aware of that. If someone just starts a PR and he doesn't have a plan in front of him, maybe that's very difficult to do. It makes sense to me.
Well,
Ashley, I have one question. Just maybe I misunderstood you. Can you clarify? You think that when splitting PRs, the time till the feature will be kind of longer, and you think that if you would have stayed with the one large single PR, you could have merged it sooner? That's the point?
That's part of my point. It might have been merged sooner. I think the flaky test, you wouldn't be able to tell as much, which is problematic. But there is times when I'm working on a PR and I'm like, I could split this one thing out and PR it, but that could take like a week to get merged between CI and code review. And that is something that disincentivizes me from splitting things out.
I definitely feel that pressure too. That's one reason why I've created bigger PRs and put things together when I probably could have put in multiple ones, just because the timing is cognitively it's so much more to keep up with at times, because the PRs, they all break. Like there's more things for me to rebase. It's just more things for me to keep track of at times. But it's a balance.
Yeah, even on.
I think it was proven that that if you have like more code to review, you will miss more bugs. It's like it's a proven theory. If it's called a theory, but it is also there are a lot of blogs and articles about it. As bigger the review, the scope of your review, the most likely is that you will miss things. That's like a rule.
But
we see that even in the website and user guide content. It's hard to get a reviewer's time for small reviews, but the work must go on, as they say in show business. And then all of a sudden your pull request balloons up in size, and yeah. Of course, more bugs get introduced and things get missed, and you end up in this downward spiral of not having your feature in place and having bugs introduced, and feels like you're trudging through mud.
My question is, so we're talking about splitting to several PRs and making a dependency. So first of all, GitHub doesn't allow that in its process. That's first. And then second, look at, I mean, people who are interested in splitting to smaller chunks, it's possible to create multiple commits in a single PR, as many as you would like. So I don't see, I see the problem, but I also see that if we will create multiple commits and you could comment on each of the commits separately, that would ease the review process, I think. It's not always something that, I mean, personally, I don't keep up with this, with these commits. For me, it's easier to see a complete picture in a PR, so I don't usually go through the commits. I don't mind, but I mean, if people are, and what stops you from creating multiple commits in every PR?
I've been doing both. Sometimes I rebase and squash my commit into one commit, and sometimes I have many commits per pull request. And there's really no rhyme or reason on why I do that.
So let's assume that you have 3 PRs that are giving you a feature, or 5 PRs. Let's take 5 PRs, and let's assume that each one of the PRs have like 3-5 commits. And from my experience until now is that it takes around 1 to 2 weeks to review and approve such a PR, because it takes time for the review. It depends on what level of review you are doing, and you are willing to invest. So let's say it takes 1 week. So you have 1 week. It will take you 5 weeks to review 5 PR. No, 5 weeks to review 5 PRs. If I merge all of them in one PR, it should take me the same time, right? It will take me, and I'm only talking about the reviewing and the approve. I'm not talking about the need to wait for the CA to get merged. And I can what I do usually, I just rebase one PR over the other. It's technically possible. It's not a problem. But if it will take me now one PR to review 5 weeks, you understand that to that I'm adding rebasing every time that master changes and breaks this PR. It would cost me much more than rebasing one single small PR, and the review process will also be hard because the other person needs to see the whole picture, not only the picture of one single PR. He needs to see 5 times the size of the change. So I think in my opinion, if you do a thorough review, it will hurt the timeline. It will cost you much more time until it gets in. And it will frustrate the author and will probably make the reviewer less anxious to even start the review.
I don't know.
Do we have any metrics on
I'm not sure why
long?
did we get to 5 weeks. I'm sure some PRs get faster merged and reviewed. Maybe what we need is a dedicated reviewer that once you have your PR ready, then he can jump in, and then others can chime in whenever they have time. So I'm not sure how to solve it. I'm just
What was your comment about metrics?
Yeah, I was going to say, is anybody looking at a metric on what the average lifespan of a pull request is or issue?
I think we look at the metric that we have is how long once it's ready to be merged between it being ready to being merged. I'm not sure if we have a metric for the entire lifespan of a PR. I'm not even entirely sure how useful it is because sometimes PRs don't ever get merged because they shouldn't. And we probably need to have some sort of robot to clean them up. I even have some that are still open that need to be closed. And then I have some PRs that I created last year that still need to be merged. So I mean, I wait months.
You don't have to self-incriminate.
Yeah, it's a tough process, especially like my large PRs. Like they stay for. I have no expectation that they're going to get merged within a month at times. It's just, all right, I created this thing. I'll eventually start pinging people and escalate that until eventually it gets merged.
And actually, this meeting is a good opportunity. I mean, we could talk about those PRs that are ready and bring it to attention of everybody who is willing to review.
Absolutely. I think that just like we invite people to come on and talk about the bugs and stuff they've introduced, I think this is a great opportunity to discuss PRs that people are working on that they want to gain community visibility on. And this is the perfect forum for that.
Do we want to take that action for next week and add a section for pull requests?
I think that makes sense. I think it makes sense to put as part of the agenda, are there any pull requests anyone would like to discuss or need reviews on or something like that, and we can coordinate who will look at these things, because things get lost in the noise, especially with how large our project is getting with more and more contributors, and there's a certain number of people that can review, even limited number of people that can approve, and everyone's attention is pulled in different directions. So it's hard to, things just slip through the cracks. That's the best way to describe it.
Okay, I'll take an action to adjust our template here in the community meeting notes, because we have a lot of information on that first page. And really, I just want to copy and paste some bullet points down into the next section for the weekly meeting. And then everybody can populate everything as normal. So let me clean up that first page a little better and add that.
I think this meeting is for anyone who feels like they're unable to make progress. This is a great place for them to bring up, hey, I want to make progress in this thing, but it's unclear how to. So that could be, I created this PR and I just need some feedback on it. I have this bug and it's unclear if there's a workaround or what we need to do about it. Whatever it is, this is the place to bring up what's blocking somebody.
Yeah, I would like to ask a question in this forum about the KubeVirt cluster configuration. So in the past, we could configure, we could provide this configuration using the KubeVirt config map, and we decided to deprecate it. But for backward compatibility, we still in the virt config, we still treat the config map, and if it exists, we are taking the configuration from there. And otherwise, we will go to the KubeVirt CR and try to parse the configuration from the CR. And the problem is that it introduces some kind of inconsistency, and it may confuse the administrator, because you can, even in the newer KubeVirt version, you can configure, you have the KubeVirt CR, it's necessary, right, for the operator, and you also may have the config map. And when they both present, the configuration will be taken from the config map, but it's not understandable. So my suggestion is to, well, I'm asking if would you like to completely deprecate the support for config map and remove it from the virt config, so there won't be confusion about it?
Yes, that's what I would like to see.
Me too. I constantly have problems with the community users configuring partially on the config map and partially on the CR, and then nothing works, and you just can't figure this out.
So I'll describe why I think it exists the way it does today. Maybe somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. It's an update path. So right now, somebody has their KubeVirt config map, and they want to transition to the KubeVirt CR. They put whatever they want, whatever matches the parity of that config map in their KubeVirt CR, then they delete the config map, and then the CR is now in control. That process, I don't know if you can do that atomically unless we allow the config map to exist when the KubeVirt CR exists, and allow for things to be sent in the KubeVirt CR before they can actually be applied. It's kind of confusing. Maybe if we can think of a way to still do that atomically and allow people to make that transition in a way that's safer, then we could do that immediately before we deprecate. But I'm not seeing a clean way. I'm fine with us just deleting that config map right now. We could also just do that and to see who complains. Does anyone have a problem with that? We can just see what happens. Bring it up on the mailing list.
We had the big issues with that on OpenShift, on OCP, because in OpenShift, you know, we have the ACO who manages the DCRs of all the CNV components. And HCO, they don't support configuring KubeVirt via the KubeVirt CR yet. So what happened is that they create config map, and there are also the KubeVirt CR. And then when you run the tier 1 tests, which support only the KubeVirt CR, then we have inconsistency and tests are failing. That's one example.
Okay.
So
well,
pretending that we that everybody in sister projects included actually do adopt the KubeVirt custom resource, back to David's question, what if we just remove it? Who breaks? Who outside of this forum right here are we not aware of? It depends absolutely on the config map.
I doubt anyone does. I think that we need to solve...
it's an unfair question because they're not here to answer.
Sure.
But
Should we give a warning? I don't say we delete it today. I say that we give a warning on the mailing list, and maybe we even offer a migration path for people, so it's clear what needs to be done before X release that removes it, and it would be pretty simple. And for the HCO case, we just need, they have to, I don't know if we can do anything until they use the KubeVirt CR. So that
I would suggest that it's possible to add a deprecation warning that if we see the config map loaded, because KubeVirt did that, it can log a message saying that it's going to be deprecated as a version, pick one, I don't know, and then do it, that way. So that would be another vector that we could use to warn people.
Yeah, but
HCO will support it in the next release. I have been working together with them over the past week or 2 weeks ago, and for sure they will support KubeVirt CR in the next release.
What's the release cadence for HCO?
I don't remember. It will be released in the CV 4.8.
We just mixed versions with vendor and specific.
Yeah. I'm not sure exactly what that means on the timescale upstream.
For HCO, yeah. So for HCO version, I'm not sure, and if there is no HCO team representative here, then I will have to ask.
My guess would be before the end of May is what that means.
Well, look
at the absolute outside, but I have no idea when that actually should.
Maybe they're doing monthly releases too. I can double check. No, no, monthly releases are not occurring. Okay. No releases are occurring. The last release was November.
What?
Okay. It looks like it's on a 3-month cadence. That's what, a 3 or 4 month cadence. Okay, so it's matching OpenShift. I see.
Okay, so I will start a thread in the mailing list of KubeVirt Dev about deprecating the config map.
When yeah, that sounds like a great start. And when do you think that the HCO logic is going to land, as in be merged, not in a release, but just be merged?
It's already merged to their master.
I think
they just need to release it. Okay.
Okay. If it's merged, because they're locked in to KubeVirt releases, I believe. I have to double check that, but I'm pretty sure that they're locked in. So when they do a release, they're going to be locked in to a previous version of KubeVirt that actually worked with them end to end. So I don't think that it's possible for us to break if we deprecate that, because they're not going to attempt to use an old version of the HCO with a new version of KubeVirt. At least I'm not aware of that occurring. So yeah, bring it up on the mailing list. Let's try to deprecate it and see if anyone from the HCO has complaints.
Great. Okay, thank you.
So we didn't get to go over the bugs today.
I actually have 2 bugs. So is any more issues for the open floor, everybody? Or can we move on to bugs? Going once, going twice. Okay, I have a few really easy bugs. Normally I would handle the content issues like this, but I'm so busy with the user guide markdown engine migration that I would like some volunteers to take these two on. And these are really, really good blocks of work if somebody wants to get started with the community. A bunch of months ago, Fabian and I identified that the argument to get the argument upload proxy URL throws a X509 certificate warning when you don't use an official certificate. I triggered an issue on that because we don't have any documentation on how to get rid of that certificate warning. So if somebody wants to take a look at that and add an update to user guide, that would be super awesome. And then the other one is we've noticed some users wanting to run KubeVirt within Rancher, and we don't have any documentation at all for that. We have a number of quick start labs for K3S and Minikube, but there is not one for Rancher. So if someone would like to volunteer on taking that issue and creating that page, that would also be really cool. I know these are easy content issues in comparison with the greater KubeVirt project, but I like the looks of the work, and hopefully somebody else does too.
All right, mind if I use the remaining 3 minutes for the backstrap? It would be a quick one today. Let me share the screen real quick. All right, so I have added the labels to support the backstrapping, but I did that only today, so they will be available only tomorrow. They are just copying the ones available in Kubernetes, so we have accepted. If we are willing to fix something, there is a duplicate, needs info, not reproducible, and unresolved, which is kind of a one fix. So I hope to start using them later this week. And everybody should be encouraged to do the same. If you see an issue and it's missing a trash label, feel free to set it there. For the open issues, there's one open by some of the flakiness in our end-to-end is supposedly caused by out of memory on our Cirrus images. It's not clear if it's due to kernel panic or due to memory leak or due to just insufficient memory. So he's looking into that. The next one, configure disk sector sizes and other disk devices fields. It was opened 3 days ago. Does it ring a bell for anybody? KubeVirt does not currently seem to allow tweaking, tuning this configuration thing of details such as logical sector size, physical sector size, blah, 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 blah. Do we have anybody from storage that could speak to this? I don't see Michael here anymore. Let me ping him. unless anybody has anything to say to this one. Okay. Oh, I may have a question about this one. So in the network tests that we have, we are failing an assertion when we get a warning event, while in the rest of the code base, supposedly we are only failing on an error, hardcore error. Is there a precedent about this? Does it make any sense to fail on warnings?
Yeah, I mean, it can. So we make exceptions on a case-by-case basis. I think that if warnings tell us something, so we want to know when they're occurring and we want to investigate why they're occurring. If you can determine, for example, for this test, that warning is part of the acceptable flow for whatever reason, maybe it's something that it's expected and it can occur and it's resolved, then maybe we can ignore it. But it's something that just has to be looked at.
Gotcha, makes sense. All right, thanks for the clarification. I think he suggested a PR where we ignore just a specific warning while we would fail on all the rest. Okay, I'll let him know.
The expectation would be that we would have an explanation for why deadline exceeding is occurring, and that we know the root cause, and then based on that root cause, we can determine whether or not it's something that should be ignored or not.
Gotcha. Yeah, thank you. All right, I'll let him know. Now the next one is yours, David. Do you want to give us a heads up?
Yeah, so I noticed in Virt Handler, we try to reduce the number of API calls that we're making because Virt Handler is supposed to scale. It's on every single node. And we reduce the even the number of informers that we have. So the only thing we're actually watching is the VMI object. And there might be one other thing. I can't remember exactly what it is. Maybe it's that config map, I'm guessing, for the cluster config or something like that, or the KubeVirt CR. I don't know, but it's very, very limited. I was looking into this and I realized because we've limited what we allow to be informed about, we're doing some things that are perhaps equally as inefficient by performing gets on objects. Like we're doing a get on every PVC attached to a VMI, and that happens, I think it happens twice for every time the VMI is reconciled while it's running. So it can add up pretty quick if we have a really densely packed host, and we have lots of those densely packed hosts in a cluster. Potentially, we could be causing more reads than we need to just with our infrastructure. Anyway, point is, there's got to be a way for us to reduce this. I just want to see us cache these results, or come up with some sort of caching mechanism to prevent thrashing the API server on every reconcile of the VMI. And reads aren't that big of a deal, but still, hopefully we can even remove reads like this. That's it. I don't know if there's anything actionable immediately.
Okay, so this is just a bucket list how to improve the performance. Gotcha. Okay. Oh, the next one is also on you, sir.
Yeah, this one's, I wish Roman was here. Let me see. Roman, you in here? I don't think he is. I don't even know how to look at the, I imagine
he's not in the list.
Okay. Yeah, so we made a change recently, and Roman was involved with it, where he changed how we consume RPMs and cache them in Bazel for our build process. And as a result of that, both our libvirt, both of our Virt launcher and Virt handler containers get the same dependencies, but the dependencies that are actually required are different. So it's kind of like a one blanket list of RPMs are being installed in both. That means the Virt handler has things like libvirt in it now, which is confused. It's confusing to me why we need that. We don't need that. So that was probably a mistake. And I think it's confusing to other people because I've begun to see people trying to leverage those libraries and do things with libvirt and virt handler that we probably aren't okay with. So we probably need to trim down what is in virt handler to only be the necessary components. But I don't, so I need Roman here because I'd like to understand why he did it this way when he made the change with his new Bazel caching logic. So there might be a good reason why it exists like this, but I'm unaware of it.
Understood. Yeah, it shouldn't matter, right, if we are reusing the same image on the host, but if people try to use the libvirt where they should not, then I guess that's an issue.
It's just the policy of put the tools that you need in there and nothing more. That's, I think, what we like, an opt-in to new things.
Yep.
Anyway.
All right, thanks. And we are on the top of the hour, so let's not go any further. But I see that the last issue here is from the last year, so I feel that we will eventually get there and clean this. Thanks all.
Okay, I guess we're done.
Bye-bye. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Thank you. Bye.